G'day everyone, it's SDS SuperCoach, providing SuperCoach content for you. I'm here to present a team preview, and I am doing the St Kilda Football Club with one of my good mates. It is Jordan Peeler. How are you doing, my man?
Thanks, David. I'm great. It's a pleasure to be here. I've loved your content so far, and just happy to add any insight I can on St Kilda.
I'll try to keep this as professional as possible because I won't lie, I am a few drinks down, but we all love it. So obviously a few drinks of water, we are down. So let's get right into it, I reckon, Jordan. So now the most expensive player at St Kilda, it is Jack Sinclair at 626,200. So he's obviously a big price tag. He's the most expensive defender in the back line. So what are your thoughts on Jack Sinclair? Are we picking him, or is this a bloke where he might be a little bit too expensive to pay the money up on?
No, I think he is just a straight out and out lock. Often the most expensive defender, people can think, oh, there'll be an upgrade target later on because their price is too high and they'll dip. But Jack Sinclair is a man of consistency. 15 times last year he scored 110 plus, and he'd only dropped below 100 on 3 different occasions. So he's not the in previous years it might have been a Rory Laird where you're thinking, oh, he could get a couple of 90s and then his price will drop. But I don't think Jack Sinclair is not the one to be dropping more than 10 or 20k in any given game. So I would say that he is a lock to start the season.
I love that, Jordan, and I love the research as well. I've not given you much time to prepare for yourself. It is about probably 11:30 in Victoria at this point in time, so I really do appreciate the research there. That's some really interesting content from you. But can I just a follow-up question as well? Is Sinclair, from what you can hear and from what you can tell, he is playing the same role for 2023?
Yes, no, yeah, I think he will. He'll start on that half-back line, as we know he was all Australian in. But obviously, as we all know, he has his dips in the midfield. He's not purely just a half-back flanker. He is another midfielder. But St Kilda have, not the best midfield, but they've got a lot of players who can play either on a forward or a half-back flank and push into the midfield. And he's certainly one of those who can go into the midfield for some stints.
Mate, you have some absolute ripping content from you. So we better keep this going because we've got another 41 players. I'm sorry if I don't make much sense tonight, but a few drinks deep, a few waters deep. So we'll keep going. Now, number 2, as we can see, Jack Sinclair at 604,400. He is, as we saw originally
Jack
at the
Steele.
start of the... Who did I say?
Sinclair.
Oh, God. There's so many Jacks at your club, mate. Anyway,
there's about 7, yeah.
Yeah, there's too many. Jack Sinclair is at about 604,000. At the start of preseason, we thought, I said Steele, mate. What are you
said
hearing?
Sinclair. Oh. Listen to the recording. It said Sinclair.
Yeah, probably. Jack Steele, 604,000. And we thought at the start of the preseason, you know what? He's an absolute lock. We know his capabilities. But just at the minute where we've heard a little bit of bad signs, to be honest, we're not hearing much about him fully firing so far in preseason. Jordan, is there any knowledge that you can tell us about him just replenishing back to his form so far in preseason?
Yeah, I don't think there's any signs of him, performing any worse than he did last year. So he still performed very well last year. As we know, he had that month off, and I think that a month off, he still didn't quite get back to the heights that he did in his 2 All-Australian seasons in 2021. However, I do think that 604,000 is that. I think that is too cheap for Jack Steele, and I think that's about what he's set to average on 111 roughly. And I think that St Kilda's midfield, he is going to still be the number 1 man again. And I just don't see him averaging under that unless he gets injured again. And that's right. His preseason hasn't been that noteworthy. However, I was in attendance nice and early on Friday. That just happened, and can tell you that he was flying under the radar. He's had a haircut. He's had a fresh buzz cut, and he was looking amazing. He was, taking on packs. He was kicking it down people's throats. So I think he's just been flying under the radar, and because people have seen the headlines of St Kilda. Oh, King's out. Oh, Hayes is out. Oh, they've got no forward line. Potentially Membry out. But people have just forgotten about Jack Steele, and I think that he's a great value selection as your probably your M4, M3, M4.
Mate, that's what we love to hear, because if Jack Steele can get fit and firing, then that saves a lot of problems down in that midfield, and he can be an easy selection. So hopefully that's the case. I've noticed as well he's lost a bit of weight, so I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but we're just going to have to see throughout preseason, and hopefully in preseason he can prove us that he is still an absolute lock in our sides for 2023. Brad Crouch, look, as a starter pick, to be honest, I'm not sure how much we need to worry about this player. So, Jordan, quick summary about him.
No, he's probably more of a AFL fantasy player because he gets, I think, as we noticed, more so at Adelaide. I mean, still a bit now, but he is a high possession player, but not necessarily a high efficiency player. I think he's improved a bit on that. He probably gets less of the ball now than he used to, but he probably uses it a bit better. But he's going to be around that, mid to high 90s. But really, in SuperCoach, if you're not averaging over 110, you've got to be a rookie or someone priced under 300k, which he is neither of. So.
Mate, I like the summary there of you bringing into AFL fantasy there. So, Brad Crouch is probably one that we can pass on pretty much, and probably another player that we can slightly pass on very quickly is Seb Ross. Do you reckon he's any relevance at all, mate?
I'm not sure there has been a single season where he's been SuperCoach relevant. He has been, a solid contributor for the Saints, and I know a lot of Saints fans weren't keen on him the last couple of years. I think towards the end of 2020, 2021 and a bit of 2022, he actually showed he didn't quite get back to his Trevor Barker winning level, but he certainly got close, and he was overshadowed by the emergence of Jack Steele and Sinclair, because when he won those Trevor Barker medals, those players were not at the heights they are now. He's another a solid contributor for the Saints, probably on the fringe of the best 22, to be honest, because I think Crouch, Steele, Sinclair are better players than him, and you're probably going to start Windhager in the middle. So, Ross, I wouldn't touch him. He could probably average between the high 80s and the low 90s, but that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. And if he can average high 80s and low 90s, that's certainly not worth his price at this point in time. So we'll touch on Marcus Windhager later in time. But, all right, this is going to be one of the main blokes of SuperCoach from St Kilda. It's going to be Rowan Marshall at $506,000. That is very good value if he can just stay as that solo ruck for 2023. But do you think that hopefully for us SuperCoach owners that he can stay as the sole ruck and at that good value? Do you reckon he's all worth it?
The short answer is yes, and I'll give you the long answer as well. Yes, he will be the sole ruck. Even if he wouldn't, that would actually mean that it would only be for a month anyway, because King's due back around round 5, I believe. And then Hayes will be back a couple of weeks after that. But what I was going to say is St Kilda has got they've got Anthony Caminiti, and that obviously he's not going to be a standout, but you don't just go after someone in the SPP for no reason. You go after a need, and St Kilda need to have an extra key forward there. So he's not just going to sit by just in the Zebras all year. He's going to be starting the season, either on the field or on the pine, but that's okay. And I think Rowan Marshall is definitely going to start. He's definitely going to be in the ruck, because the Saints, It was a bit of a scare. Remember, he might not get back to round one, but it looks like he will. And even if he doesn't, you've still got a Wooden Shaman. You know who they're not. They're not small, but they're also not tall. They're kind of that third tall. But I think if you start with those two, yeah, I don't think you're going to need Marshall down there because those two are quite mobile. And yeah, I don't think that Tom Campbell's not up to. I mean, he's a bit of a journeyman, but like I don't think St Kilda's going to put him in the ruck, and I don't think Cordy's going to start in the ruck either. So I'd say that Marshall, unless he gets injured, he's probably going to be solo ruck for 18, 19 games, maybe dual for a couple. So
Yeah,
I just don't.
I hope that's the case,
So I
mate.
just, yeah, I think, and it showed without Ryder, he was well over 100 average. So.
Well, mate, I think he's the absolute one of the best ruckmans in the competition if he can just be the solo ruck. So that'd be fantastic if he can stay there. Now we've got a few blokes that I think we can slowly start to bypass. We'll talk more about some of the more relevant Supercoach options. Now, Jade Gresham, very talented player, but do you think I expect him to be more of a high forward midfield sort of role? So do you think there's any relevance at all? And at that price, do you reckon he can end up being a top 10 forward? I mean, I'd be surprised, but maybe there's a chance.
I would have him probably that 15th to 20th range. I think he could probably
Agree.
push for the 90s, but unless St Kilda have a couple of injuries in the midfield, he's certainly a capable midfielder. But I think he's not saying he's like as good as De Goey, but he's that kind of player. Whereas he plays forward and then a bit of midfield, but. I think his disposal is not quite clean enough to be hitting the hundreds consistently. I mean, he can certainly get there. We know he's torn some games apart, but I feel that he's going to have too many 60s and 70s that water down his 90s and his hundreds. So I think unless we see some more consistency from him, he's probably going to be one to avoid. And I mean, I think he's going to have a great year for St Kilda, but I just don't see, not for Supercoach.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm pretty sure he jumped on him in 2022 and he was an absolute bargain. He did very well before. Yeah, before he got injured, he was absolutely fantastic. Some people doubted on him. So did I, to be fair, but he was a great pickup for you. So the next one, Callum Wilkie. I don't think we need to touch on too much about this bloke. Maybe if he gets really cheap, then we consider him during the year. But
if he gets to below maybe 370, 380, you'd probably look at him.
Yep. Yeah, agree, mate. Bradley Hill, he's moving back to a wing, which is probably his best position in AFL football, but we know for Supercoach, not a type of role that we go for.
No, absolutely. Because even when he was All-Australian at Fremantle, he's still only averaging in the high 80s. I mean, wing's is a good position for him, but wingers tend to not get many Supercoach points because they're not getting that much contested ball. So, which we know that he doesn't do.
Absolutely not. Now, Tim Membry, we know, is going to be out for probably the rest of proper pre-season, so that's probably no good for him. So, and he's not really a Supercoach. Not Supercoach relevant at all. Dan McKenzie. Now, I personally haven't heard much from him in pre-season. Now, I don't really expect him to get much centre bounce attendances, and look, that price probably puts a lot of people off, to be fair. But do you have any news on him during pre-season? Like, is his concussion all good?
Yeah, so it's not his concussion at the moment that's his problem. It was either a quad or a calf. I should know this. It was either a quad or a calf that he's just had some reoccurring niggles with. And now at training, he was training, but he was in one of the red jerseys, not the blue. So he was with the injured group, and I saw him. He was heading off to the pool with a couple of other guys, which included Seb Ross. But so yeah, he's not 100% fit at the moment. I mean, I don't know if he's going to play round one. He might, but yeah, he's kind of that. he's kind of the heart and soul player for St Kilda. He gives it everything he's got. He loves to bash and crash, lay tackles, kick a clutch goal every now and then. But yeah, great player. I think he's pretty important for St Kilda. He's a bit of a glue, but again, he's not. He's probably going to average that, 70 to 85, and that's a no man's land.
No, that's not getting you anywhere. So let's hope that it's all the best for him. I think he'll have a great season for St Kilda. I tell you what, he's proven a lot of people wrong, including me. I didn't think he was much of a player, but he's turned out to be a very solid AFL footballer. So good on him. Jack Billings, another one. I don't think we need to touch up much on him.
No, I would pass.
Yeah. Josh Battle, there's been a little bit of talks that he might be playing forward during because of that St Kilda forward line disaster at the minute with all the key forwards going down. But I mean, if anything, that's even worse of a case for Josh Battle to play down forward.
Exactly. No, as we know, he was drafted as a forward, and he played. He's a fair few. He's probably played about 60% of his career up forward, but you still, even if he does play forward, he could average maybe 60s, 70s, but I think he's better suited down back. He takes intercept marks, and I just think regardless, he's not. He's a solid player for St Kilda, but he's not SuperCoach relevant.
Yeah, agree, mate. Let's hope that St Kilda can sort out that forward line situation pretty quickly if they want to have a good start of the season. Mason Wood, he's probably best 22, but not SuperCoach relevant at all, Spud.
393. No, I wouldn't. If he was 290, I would have maybe not picked him. I would have had to think about it, but I think yeah, he's just exactly as you said. He's a bit like Joe McKenzie. He's one of those players that's quite different to other AFL players. He's someone you absolutely love in your side because he can bob up for a goal. He runs hard on the wing. He can do the works. But yeah, exactly. He's not exactly a SuperCoach player. He doesn't get enough of the ball. He's probably going to get you that 16 touches, 5 marks in the goal. Which what's going to get you 75 to 85.
Yep, spot on, mate. I'll tell you what, this is why I got you on board because you know your stuff. Sorry, my man Lockie, and sorry, my man Luke, but you guys weren't up. You guys are falling asleep at the minute, so it's good to have Jordan on board. And I'll tell you what, I look really red on this face cam. It's probably because of the sunburn.
It's a reflection of the Saints logo, mate.
I tell you what, I've got shocking sunburn at the minute, so it's pretty cold out here. So I'm outside at the minute recording this. Anyway, let's get back to SuperCoach. Max King. I'd be surprised if you had more than 10 seconds to talk about Max King. Otherwise,
big no.
Yeah, no. Maybe more of a if he comes back
more than one
plays,
reason.
If he plays pretty crap throughout when he comes back, then he could be a lower price, and maybe he's someone to consider. Dougal Howard at 370.
Don't touch him.
No, don't touch him. I absolutely
Can I just
agree.
add one thing about Max?
Yeah, go on about Max.
Okay, I'll use my 10 seconds here. The only people I can see picking Max are people who mistaken him for Ben, because Ben King will be a SuperCoach selection.
I'll tell you what, I recorded a video with one of my good mates, and I'm pretty sure he got the two confused. He was talking about
most of the media get it wrong. They just don't know.
yeah, legit, honestly. But hopefully it's all good for Max. I think it's going to be a little bit tough without a preseason, but hopefully he comes back as strong as he can. Then we've got looking at the names down below. We can quickly bypass a few of these. Dougal Howard is taking kick-ins. Is there anything at all, Spud?
No, you could grasp at straws and say that a couple of years ago he was looking at 90s early, but then fell away and averaged probably in the 70s. But no, I wouldn't touch him. Not I mean, unless the most of the defenders that are Supercoach relevant are either halfback flankers or people who play in the midfield but play enough, drift back enough to be able to. It's normally your runners. It's not your key position players usually. I mean, don't get me wrong. Occasionally, a key position defender is pickable, but 95% of the time, it's not a key position defender you pick.
Yeah, exactly. And if you hear any noise in the background, it's me refilling my water, definitely. So that's how it is. Look, Jordan, I'm not sure how much time we've got left, so let's quickly bypass a few of these, if you don't mind. Zach Jones, is he best 23 even?
No, I wouldn't say. I would love him to be, and he was. I was going to say he was 2 or 3 years ago. He tore your mob up to shreds 2 years ago. 37 touches and 2 goals. Looked like he was going to do more than that, but I would just say he's way too inconsistent. He used to be able to shrug people off, but he gets caught too much. So I would just say stay away from him. He's not in the best 23, and even if he is, he's got a lot of work to do.
Well, all I'll say about that, Jordan, is it wouldn't be hard to be best on ground against Hawthorn for the past few years. Number 17 is Ben Patton. He's a lockdown defender. Wouldn't bother about him, don't you reckon?
No, don't touch him. Good player, but again, yeah, not the type for Supercoach, that's for sure.
Jack Higgins, again, he's a bit hit and miss for me for Supercoach, and even then, small forwards don't really end up too well on that type of game.
Exactly.
So
He'd need to be sub 200 and then start getting a bit hungry about him.
Absolutely. Jimmy Webster, very solid player for your football club, but wouldn't touch on Supercoach.
Yeah, another heart and soul player, but yeah, he's probably an average, in the high 70s. Wouldn't go there. Great player, but again, just because someone's a good player doesn't mean they're going to do well in Supercoach.
Exactly. Jack Hayes was fantastic in 2022 for Supercoach until he did his ACL, unfortunately. But again, I won't even let you talk about him. Just not a player to worry about in 2023. Hunter Clark, I will let you talk a bit about him because he is certainly giving a few coaches a bit of interest because of 315K. That's certainly a player that's more than capable of that price. So what do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I'm torn on him. At the moment, I'm saying no, but this could just be because it could be a bit of PTSD. I have not last year, but in multiple years, picked him around that 270 to 300K, and I keep thinking, oh, it's just going to be the year he breaks out, but then he gets injured, or doesn't perform quite to the level. Now, I think his progress hasn't been terrible due to his injuries. I mean, if he hadn't been injured, I think he would have, he would have progressed a bit more. But I don't know. I think a lot of people are tossing up between him and Caulfield or Jack Bowes. And as a Saints man, I'm actually going for Jack Bowes. I just think that Hunter Clark, he could push into the midfield, but with the emergence of Marcus Windhager and how quickly he's become a solid midfielder. I know he wasn't Supercoach relevant. I mean, his scores weren't relevant for this year, but I think the fact that in the preseason he's improved so much. He had that game where he dominated Lucky Neal. I know it's just one game, but still, I think because Windhager is going to be thrust into the midfield, I don't see Hunter Clark getting enough midfield time. And unfortunately, he's probably going to average in the 80s, which is not enough.
Yeah, look, I'm personally a bit against it as well. I haven't really heard too much from him pre-season, and I will just let my guests know that we have about 8.5 minutes left to finish this video. So basically 7.5 minutes. So look, we'll just not bother about a few of these players. So Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller, he's playing off the halfback, but once again, I'd be surprised if he becomes a Supercoach option at 2020 for 2023.
If it was 203, not 303, I would have said yes.
Absolutely. Tom Campbell, definitely not.
Don't bother.
No. Dan Butler.
Dan Butler
once again.
again.
No,
Forward
absolutely
pockets.
not.
I'm not sure I remember any forward pocket being relevant except for Steve Johnson, and even then he was like a forward pocket slash a midfielder at the time. So it's
They've
just
got
extremely
yeah,
rare. Yeah.
they've got to be really cheap to worry about these forward pocket players.
Or the best,
Uh,
or the top 10 player in the comp in that position. Top
absolutely,
5 in that position.
absolutely. Now I will let you talk about this bloke for a bit. Is Marcus Windhager? Is there any chance you can let us know that he's not playing a tagging role? Because there was at one point where I did have him in my side, thanks to you, but there is still a bit of questionable thoughts in my head where he could be playing as a tagging role. But hopefully, we can see in 2023 that he can cut loose and be just a regular player.
Look, I'm not Ross the boss, so I can't guarantee 100%. But from what I saw at the training and what I've heard a bit, and and big footy and all that, just other sources and all that combined, I don't think he will be tagging. I think he'll be playing a genuine midfield role. I think the tagging last year was to get him accustomed to the patterns of players running and to play on the best. That's how you learn. That's how you learn. You play on the best. He did a number of tagging roles. Sometimes he succeeded, sometimes he didn't, but that's how you learn. And I have a sneaking suspicion that we will play a tagger, and I think that'll be Liam Stocker. I think he did a number of tagging slash accountability roles last year at Carlton, and I saw him in a couple of drills where he was tackling hard, he was breaking tackles. He looks like that run with flow, and Ross was quite impressed with him. He actually even blew the whistle at the end of a drill, and then basically he was walking past and just called out during the middle of a drill, just called out, "Oh, great tackle, great stuff, well done." So he was really impressed with Stocker, and as was I. And I think Stocker could be that tagger.
Love that, Jordan, because that sounds great. And I think Windhager needs to be let loose for St Kilda to just develop his progress a bit further. Now we've got another just a little bit over 5 minutes. So look, I'm just going to get to a point where we don't talk about players. Ryan Burns, we're not going to talk about. Cooper Sharman, no point. Tom Highmore, his job security is a bit inconsistent, if I'm going to be honest. Mitch Owens, now you can quickly talk about him because it looks like he's going to play a little bit as a forward, midfield sort of thing. He should be playing each week, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, he should be playing each week. I honestly thought he was on the cusp, but slightly inside the best 23, even before the injuries. But now he's probably going to be playing in that third or fourth forward. Like he could be the third tall. Like he's actually a pretty tall midfielder. Like back in the day, he could have been a key position. I don't think he's tall enough for that. But it's weird. He's put on some weight, and he's got that midfield ability, that genuine midfield, not just like have a dip in there. But obviously, St Kilda's got a lot of players. Not the best midfield, but we've got plenty of players who are midfielder or pure midfielder. So we have to have a lot of midfielders playing on the flanks, and I would say that Owens could be developed into a gun pure midfielder, perhaps, but at the moment he's probably going to be getting that 15 touches and a goal a game. Again, I think 70 to 75 points, but yeah, he's slightly cost too much for my liking. If he was 170, 180, he would have been one of the first picked in my team.
Absolutely, mate. So we've got about 3 minutes to finish this. So unfortunately, we need to smash down a few of these. Zane Cordy, hope you have nothing to say about him. Stocker, by the sound of it, looks like he's going to be a bit of a tagger. So
Still wouldn't pick him, yeah.
At a really cheap price, but we wouldn't go near him. Quick summary on Nick Caulfield. I've got him in my current team, but I did see him have the non-contact hat on. So I'd love to hear if you have anything otherwise.
Yeah, no, that's right. He did have the non-contact hat, that fluoro tennis ball colour hat. But yeah, the funny thing is, a lot of people are going between, as I said, between Bo, him, and Clark, and he's 107k cheaper than Clark, and he's about 68, 69k cheaper than Bose. But I'm still not sure. I think he's a player who I want to see what his first couple of games are like, and then maybe add him. Like, I don't think it's going to be much of a loss if I don't start with him, and I just don't know if it's necessary, because yes, I think he's best 22 when he's up and about, but because he's had a whole season where he's injured, I don't know how he's going to adjust. And he was doing a lot of running off and kicking well, but yeah, because he was non-contact, we didn't get to see whether he was going to be intercepting much or not. So it's really hard to judge, and because of that, I think I'm just gonna not pick him for the moment.
Yeah, no, fair enough, mate. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so we've got about 2.5 minutes. So, Philippou, is he playing round one? And look, I think he is, but is he playing a good enough role for SuperCoach at his price tag?
Look, I think he'll start. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think he might. Look, I reckon I don't know if he'll play enough. Like, I think if he plays, he could average 65 to 75, and that's not too bad. You'd be happy with that. But I'm not sure how much he's going to play. Obviously, he's not a like for like with King and Hayes, but when they come back into the team, some of the people who are playing forced to play key will be back to that flank or third or fourth type, which is what Philippou would be. So that would just push. So then we'd have the flankers and the smalls back. So then Philippou won't be needed potentially. I mean, obviously he could play as the sub, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying he's not going to be playing when those guys are back, but can't guarantee that. So I think he's one to keep on your watch list and look to see. Yeah, I don't know. And you also don't want to get sucked in by round one, because, as we know, St.Kilda is going to have a few out. So it's really, really hard to judge on that one.
All right, mate. Can you see the current list of players right here? Because
Sure
yeah,
can.
look, we need
Sure
to
can.
finish in the next minute. So
Okay, I'll just quickly run through.
yeah, I'll let you know when to stop.
Yeah, okay. So Oscar Adams, I would say probably not. Like, he's a key position player. He was taking some good marks, but not sure he's going to play enough. I would say no. Allison, no, injured, and I'm not sure he's going to play much at all. Leo Connolly, if he gets picked, you could pick him because he's ambidextrous. He's had a good couple of games, but yeah, his job security is pretty bad. Same as Heath, job security is pretty bad. But we're not likely to get picked unless there's multiple more injuries. But he's got some promising signs. He's a bit of a project player. Jack Paris is fierce. He's small. He's probably slightly taller than Caleb Daniel, but I wouldn't be picking him. He's not going to play anytime soon with Butler and Higgins and Gresham. It's hard to pick them all. Ollie
Look,
Houghton,
Jordan,
I
I won't lie. We probably don't have much left, so I'd be very surprised if any of these players